Shira stood alone on the edge of a black cliff, her purple skin glowing under the twin suns of Varkan 7. The wind howled like a beast, carrying sand sharp enough to cut steel. But Shira didn't flinch. She was used to pain. She was born into. Her planet was not kind. Everything tried to kill her since she was a child. The storms, the lava worms. Even the air was toxic to weaker beings. But Shira had survived. Not just survived, she had become stronger. In her mind, she was the last of her kind. A deathworlder, a creature made for deadly environments. She had never met another being who could survive what she did every day. To her, all other aliens were weak, soft, and afraid of real danger. Shira served in the Varkan Empire's military now. Even among her people, she was feared. Commanders called her a weapon. Soldiers whispered behind her back, calling her the living storm. But deep inside, Shira was lonely. She never said it. She never even let herself think about it too much. But sometimes, when the nights were quiet and the beasts stopped screaming, she wished there was someone who understood what it was like to be hated for being too strong, to be alone. That day, her mission was simple. Scout a nearby moon, believed. To hold a crashed enemy ship, she boarded her single-pilot fighter, entered space, and jumped through the warp gate. But something went wrong. As her ship approached the moon's orbit, a sudden energy spike hit the controls. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. The ship shook, hard. Engine failure, the AI said coldly. Brace for impact. Shira cursed and pulled hard on the controls, trying to steer toward a flat area, but gravity pulled her down fast. Her ship slammed into the rocky surface of the prison moon and exploded in a ball of smoke and fire. Everything went dark. She woke up coughing, her armor cracked, one leg bleeding. But she was alive. She pulled herself out of the burning wreckage, limping across black rocks. The sky above was purple, filled with thick clouds and falling ash. This place, it didn't feel like an ordinary moon. It was angry. As she looked around, her eyes narrowed. The surface was littered with broken bones, pieces of old ships, and strange claw marks. She realized where she was. "No," she whispered. Not this place. It was Exile 9, a prison moon used by the ancient races. Long abandoned, it was a dumping ground for the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. It wasn't just a prison. It was a death trap. Even she couldn't survive here for long. She scanned the area with her broken visor. Something moved behind. The rocks. Shira spun around, ready to fight. Out of the mist stepped a tall figure, humanoid, covered in simple black gear, no armor, no helmet. He looked fragile. But then he did something strange. He whistled, and from behind him came a giant beast, 8 legs, scales like obsidian, and yellow burning eyes. The beast sniffed the air and snarled. Then it stopped, because the man raised his hand, and the beast obeyed. Just obeyed. Shira froze. That creature should have attacked. Even she couldn't tame beasts like that. Not without pain and weapons, but the man. He was calm, confident. His eyes met hers across the ash-filled air. He didn't speak. He just nodded once and turned away. Walking deeper into the dead landscape, Shira stood still for several minutes. "What was that?" she whispered. She checked her scanner again. The readings were broken, but one thing was clear. The man was human, a species she had read about only once. Small, weak, laughably emotional. Not even close to deathworlders, but what she just saw, that was no weakling. No other species could survive on Exile 9. No one could walk freely with a predator at their side. No one could ignore a threat like her so easily. Unless... "No," she said out loud. "He can't be." But the thought refused to leave her mind. What if she wasn't the only one? What if this human was something more? Her blood rushed with a feeling she hadn't felt in years, curiosity, and something darker, challenge. Shira followed the human from a distance. She didn't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the way he moved, silent, focused, like a predator who feared nothing. He didn't look like much. No armor, no weapons, just a black jacket, torn in places, and boots thick with dust. His hair was wild, his eyes were sharp. He walked like he belonged to the moon, like it was his hunting ground, but Zira knew this place. It was not for the weak. She watched as he stopped near a rocky hill. A creature rose from the shadows, massive, covered in red spikes with 4 glowing eyes. It roared and charged at him. Shira reached for her blade, but the human didn't run. He didn't scream. He waited. And then, at the last moment, he stepped aside. The beast missed and crashed into the rocks. With a sudden motion, the human leaped onto its back. He grabbed the horns, twisted hard, and slammed its head into the ground. One hit. The creature stopped moving. Shira's heart beat faster. No alien, no deathworlder had ever moved like that. She had trained her whole life in combat, survived trials that broke others. But this human, he was different. "Who are you?" she whispered under her breath. She stepped forward, just enough to make a noise. The human turned. His eyes locked onto hers. No fear, just calm. "You following me?" he asked. His voice was deep, rough. Human languages were strange to her ears, but she understood enough. Shira didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, her claws ready. She didn't want to fight, but she needed to test him, to understand. Him, to see if what she saw was real. "You shouldn't be alive on this moon," she said. "Everything here kills." He shrugged. "Then maybe I don't belong here either. Or maybe I kill better." That made her pause. Not afraid, not impressed, just honest. Shira walked in a slow circle around him. He didn't move, didn't reach for a weapon. "You're human," she said. "And you're not," he replied. "But I've seen worse." Her brow twitched. No one ever spoke to her like that. "Do you even know what I am?" she asked. He tilted his head. "Deathworlder. Like me." That one word hit her like a punch to the chest, like me. No one had ever said that. No one had ever claimed to understand what she was. To him, she wasn't a monster. She wasn't special. She was equal. "You think humans are deathworlders?" she asked, almost laughing. He walked past her and pointed to the sky. "Earth, my home, lava, earthquakes, acid rain, apex predators, with teeth bigger than your legs, and that's just the fun part." Zira stared at him. Was he serious? He kept walking. "You coming?" he asked over his shoulder. "Or are you just going to follow me forever?" She didn't answer, but her feet moved. For the first time in her life, Zira wasn't leading. She was following someone stronger, or at least someone bold enough to not care who she was. The two walked in silence for a while. Around them, the dead moon breathed with danger. Shadows shifted. Creatures watched. But none attacked. It was like they sensed the truth. 2 apex predators now walked side by side. Shira broke the silence. "What's your name, human?" He didn't look back. "Jace. Short, simple, strong." "Zira," she said. He nodded. "Nice to meet you." That made her blink. Politeness. On a world made for death. She had no idea who this man was, or why he was here. But one thing was clear. She was not the last of her kind. The silence between Zira and Jace stretched long as they walked through the ash-covered wasteland. Strange creatures peeked from behind rocks but didn't dare to attack. The moon seemed to hold its breath. Zira wasn't used to silence. Not this kind. It wasn't the silence of fear or waiting for death. It was the silence before a storm. She studied the man walking ahead. Jace didn't flinch. He didn't scan for threats. He just walked, like he had walked this cursed ground 1,000 times, like he belonged here more than she did. That thought, it clawed at her pride. She was Varkan-born, raised on a world where children learned to kill or be killed. She had earned her strength, her name, her scars. But this human, he moved like a creature born to war, not trained into it. And he had beaten a beast she would have needed weapons to kill. No. She had to know the truth. Without warning, Sira moved, fast, lightning quick, silent, smooth. Her foot slammed into the ground, kicking dust into the air. Her claws swiped toward Jace's back, a test, a single strike, but his hand caught her wrist mid-air. No effort, no surprise. He didn't turn around. Just stood still, her arm caught in his grip. "Thought you'd try something," he said quietly. His voice wasn't angry. It was tired. Like this wasn't the first time someone had tested him and failed. Sira ripped her arm back, circling him, now face to face. "I need to know," she said. "I need to see if you're really like me or just lucky." Jace finally turned. His eyes weren't wild or glowing like a monster, but they were sharp, focused, alive. "You want to fight?" he asked. "Fine, but not to the death. I'm not your enemy." Sira said nothing. Her stance shifted. Fangs bared, Jace dropped, his bag unrolled his shoulders. And then, they moved. She came at him fast. 2 claws, a spinning kick, a low sweep. He dodged. Every move, like he had seen her fight before. Like he knew what she would do before she even moved. He didn't fight. Back, not yet, just blocked. Stepped away. Let her burn herself out. Shira snarled and pressed harder. Faster. Dirt flew. Rocks cracked. Still, she couldn't land a hit. Her breath grew heavier. Muscles burned. She had fought war beasts, battled elite Varkon soldiers, but never like this. Finally, she jumped high, spinning mid-air, aiming to bring her elbow down on his skull. Jace caught her mid-fall and threw her to the ground. Not hard, not cruel, but final. She hit the dirt with a grunt, staring up at the gray sky. Her chest rose and fell like crashing waves. Jace stood over her, breathing calmly. "We done?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she laughed. Not because she lost, but because she hadn't felt this alive in years. "You held back," she said, still lying in the dirt. "So did you," he replied. She sat up, wiping dust from her face. The two of them sat in silence again, but it was different now. There was respect in the air. Mutual. "I thought I was the strongest," she admitted. "But maybe strength isn't just about power." Jace nodded. "It's about control." She looked at him carefully. "How did you become like this?" He stared off at the distant ridges. His voice was quiet. "Earth made me. War shaped me. But pain is what finished the job." There was something in his voice. A story not yet told. A past she didn't know. But she understood the pain part. All too well. "You fight like a beast," she said. "And you think like a soldier," he replied. Shira looked at him again. For the first time, someone had matched her, not just in strength, but in soul. They didn't speak for a long time. Jace sat on a flat rock, sharpening a piece of metal into a blade. Shira sat nearby, quietly cleaning her broken armor. Around them, the dead moon groaned, echoes of distant roars and heavy footsteps in the dark. But none of the creatures came close. They could sense something had changed. 2 killers now sat side by side, not enemies, not prey, but something more, dangerous, allies. Zira looked at Jace when she thought he wasn't watching, the way he moved, calm and sure, the way his eyes never fully relaxed, always scanning. He didn't act strong, but everything about him was strength. It confused her. "You don't smell like a killer," she finally said. "Thanks," Jace replied, not looking up. "You don't either. You smell like smoke and acid," she smirked. That was probably the closest thing to a joke she'd ever heard from someone not afraid of her. "You always talk like this?" she asked. "Only with people who try to kill me before breakfast," She laughed, a real laugh, harsh and loud. It echoed through the wasteland. Jace raised an eyebrow. That's your laugh? Sounds like a dying bird. Better than sounding like a polite corpse, she shot back. They were from two different worlds, but for the first time she felt seen. Not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a person. She had always been alone, born on a planet that killed the weak, trained to fight, raised to fear no one, but also to trust no one, until now. Later, as the sunless sky dimmed into cold violet twilight, they found shelter in a collapsed structure, metal bones of a long-dead alien station. Zira sat by a broken pillar while Jace lit a small fire using scrap and sparks from his gauntlet. The warmth was new to her. So was the silence between them. It didn't feel empty now. Back there, she said suddenly. You could have broken my neck. Jace looked into the fire. Yeah. Why didn't you? He picked up a small stone, turned it in his hand, then tossed it into the shadows. Because I'm tired of fighting everything that breathes. She didn't respond. He looked up at her. You fight because you're alone. I fight because I used to be. That hit her. Hard. She remembered the faces of those she had trained with, all gone. The commanders who pushed her. The ones who feared her. The ones who tried to use her. No one had ever asked what she wanted. You're not afraid of me, she said. Nope, Jace replied. Why? Because monsters don't scare me. Silence. Again. But now it was something else. Understanding. They were different species, different worlds, different pasts. But the pain they carried, the isolation, the rage, the need to survive, that was the same. Shira reached into a hidden pocket and pulled out a metal badge. It was cracked and rusted. This belonged to my brother. He didn't make it past the training phase. They said he was too soft. So they let him die? Jace asked quietly. No, she replied. They made me fight him. And I won. The fire popped. Jace said nothing. Shira's voice dropped. I told myself it made me strong, that I had no choice. But I still see his face sometimes. In dreams, she had never told anyone that. But with Jace, the words came out like a wound opening. Jace didn't pity her. Didn't say sorry. He just nodded. Strength without pain isn't real, he said. But pain without someone to share it with, that's just poison. That was when she knew. She wasn't just looking at a fighter. She was looking at someone like her. Not a survivor, a deathworlder. And more than that, someone she could trust. Maybe even someone she needed. The morning on Exile 9 wasn't bright. It never was. Thick clouds hung like a dirty blanket above the wasteland. The air was cold and heavy. The ground cracked beneath their boots as Zira and Jace moved through what looked like an old battlefield. Burned. Bones, rusted weapons, broken armor scattered like trash. But they weren't alone anymore. From the cliffs above, eyes watched. Shira felt it first. Her instincts, sharpened by years of war, whispered that something was wrong. She paused. We're being followed, she said. Jace nodded. Been followed for a while. Why didn't you say anything? Didn't want to ruin your peaceful morning walk. She gave him a sideways glare, but he wasn't joking. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed across the rocks. A trap sprung. 4 figures dropped from above. Alien prisoners covered in scavenged armor, eyes wild with hunger and hate. Their leader, a tall beast with pale skin and cybernetic arms, pointed at Jace and growled. That's him, the one who killed our brothers. Get them. Zira and Jace didn't move. Friends of yours? She asked. No, Jace said. But they sure act like exes. The first attacker charged with a plasma spear. Jace stepped to the side and drove his elbow into the alien's face. Bones cracked. 2 more came at Zira. She ducked under a blade and slammed her fist into one's chest. His body flew backward like a doll. The 4th enemy tried to flank, but Jace was already there. A twist. A snap. Silence. 5 seconds. 4. Enemies down. But more came. From the hills, from the caves, from behind ruined machines. At least 20, maybe more. Different species all wearing the same mark, a red claw painted on their chest plates. Sira narrowed her eyes. They're not random. They're organized. Jace wiped blood from his hands. They're gang survivors, broken warlords, cannibal, tribes. Every freak that couldn't kill each other now wants us dead. Because we're stronger, Sira said. Because we're together, Jace corrected. That was the problem. The other prisoners feared them, not because of what they did, but what they might become. 2 monsters united surviving the impossible. That was a threat to the balance of power, and now, the killers of Exile 9 wanted to break them before that bond grew stronger. They ran. Not out of fear, but strategy. They needed ground they could control. They climbed into an old ruin half buried under ash and stone. Inside were rusted walls, cracked glass, and alien tech that had died centuries ago. Jace sealed the only entrance with a heavy steel door. Sira checked the ceiling for holes. They'll be on us soon, she said. Good, Jace replied. Let them come. He looked through a broken screen and tapped the wall. This used to be a control room, maybe there's a power source left. Sira tilted her head. Why? You want to light the place up? No. I want to make it a trap, she grinned. Now you're thinking like a deathworlder. Minutes later, the enemy horde reached the building. They surrounded it, waited. Inside, Sira crouched beside Jace, holding a metal pipe like a sword. Outnumbered, she whispered. Outgunned, he replied. They smiled. Perfect. The first explosion came from the back wall. Jace had rigged the broken generator to blow. 3 attackers died instantly, the rest stormed inside. And then the real fight began. Fists, blades, claws, screams. But Jace and Sira moved like shadows, cutting. Through the chaos, fighting back to back, never missing a beat. Their styles were different, but their rhythm was one. Jace used speed and precision. Sira used raw power and instinct. Together, they were unstoppable. When the dust settled, the floor was red. Only 2 were left standing, the human and the alien. Breathing, heavy, bleeding, smiling. Sira looked at him, chest rising and falling. We could have died. But we didn't, Jace replied. Not yet, she said. She stepped closer. You know what this means, right? He looked at her. They'll send more. Good, she whispered. Let them come. Then, she added something softer, something she'd never said to anyone. As long as you're with me, I'm not afraid. The sky above Exile 9 turned darker than usual. Lightning cracked between the clouds. Not natural lightning, artificial. A warning signal from an old orbital system. Something was waking up. Sira stood on the edge of a rusted platform, her armor dented and bloodied. Her eyes searched the wasteland below. They'll come again, she muttered. Behind her, Jace was kneeling beside a large, half-buried machine. Its surface was round and scorched, shaped like a pod. His hands were black with ash and grease as he pried open a control panel. They'll come with more this time, he said calmly. Bigger ones, smarter. Then we need to leave. Jace didn't look up. That's the plan. He yanked a cord. Sparks flew. A faint hum began to pulse from inside the pod. Sira stepped closer. Is that what I think it is? Emergency escape pod, Jace said. Old model, maybe 1,000 years old. Still got a core inside. If we're lucky, we can power it up. She raised a brow. If we're lucky? That thing looks like a coffin. Better than a grave, Jace replied. He stepped back, wiping, sweat from his brow. The pod's lights blinked faintly. It was alive, but just barely. It needs a full energy jump, he said, but the backup cell is gone. So what now? He pointed to a ridge about a mile away. Smoke rose from behind it. There's an old power station there, maybe still running. If I can get the core module, I can link it to this pod. Sierra frowned. We both go. Jace shook his head. No. You stay here. Guard the pod. If I don't make it back, maybe someone else will. She stepped forward, voice firm. You're not doing this alone. I already made peace with dying, he said, back when I landed here. But now, he looked at her. Now I want someone to live. Even if, it's not me. The words hit her harder than a punch. She grabbed his arm. Don't say that. You're the only one who made me feel real. Not a weapon, not a thing. For a moment, Jace said nothing. Then he touched her hand. Just once. Then stay alive for both of us. And before she could argue again, he was gone. The power station was a graveyard. Black towers, broken wires, sparks in the mist. Creatures fed on radiation here. Blind things with burning mouths. Jace moved fast, crouched low, heart pounding. He found the core module, glowing faintly in the back of a shattered reactor, but it was surrounded by acidic steam. One breath too many, and his lungs would collapse. Still, he stepped in, pulled it free, and ran. Back at the pod, Zira watched the horizon. Minutes passed, then an hour, then movement. A figure stumbled over the ridge, smoke behind him, clothes torn, face burned, but he was holding the core. Jace, she shouted. She ran to him and caught him before he fell. His body was hot, his skin pale. You idiot, she whispered. You're not allowed to die. Just get it working, he gasped. She dragged him to the pod, slammed the core into place. The system lit up. Green lights. It was working. The door hissed open. She looked at Jace. He was slipping. She shook him hard. You're coming with me. Do you hear me? Only room for one, he muttered. Shut up, she growled. She tossed his weak body into the pod, slammed the panel, and jumped in after him. The pod creaked, it groaned, the AI stuttered. 2 passengers, mass overload, system error, adjusting. She held Jace tight as the pod shook and then blast off. The pod launched into the air, fire and smoke trailing behind. Below them, Exile 9 shrank into the storm. Jace coughed weakly. You didn't listen, he said. Never will. She replied, smiling through tears. He looked at her, eyes half closed. We made it. Together, she whispered. The stars stretched out in every direction, cold, endless, beautiful. The pod floated through space, silent except for the soft beeping of its systems. Inside, the light was dim, the air was warm, but the 2 souls inside were far from at peace. Chira sat beside Jace, watching over him. His eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell, weak but steady. She had wrapped his burns, given him water. Stayed awake for hours, afraid that if she blinked too long, he might slip away. You better not die now, she whispered, brushing his hair back. We didn't fight a moon full of monsters just for you to go out like this. But even as she spoke, she felt something inside her stir, a feeling she didn't recognize, or maybe one she had always buried. Fear, not of death, but of losing him. Then, suddenly, a sound, a soft, distant ping, followed by a voice. Unidentified craft detected. This is Coalition Patrol Vessel Centius 9. Please identify yourself. Zira froze. The radio crackled again. Escape pod. Detected. Life signs confirmed, preparing to dock. The AI blinked green. The pod slowed. Zira leaned over Jace, shaking him gently. We're being rescued, she said. Hold on. Just a little longer. He stirred, his lips barely moving. You still with me? He muttered. I never left, she said softly. The pod shook gently as docking clamps locked into place. The outer hatch opened with a hiss. Bright lights poured in. Figures in armor stepped forward, weapons ready, until they saw who was inside. They didn't expect her. They didn't expect both of them. Hours later, Zira stood in a clean medical bay. Jace lay in a bed, sleeping peacefully now, wrapped in real bandages, hooked to proper machines. Across from her stood a tall, alien woman in a white coat, commander of the patrol team. "You said your name is Zira?" the woman asked. "Yes." "And the human?" "Jace, from Earth." The commander looked surprised. "Earth? That's a restricted planet. No confirmed contact in over 10 years. Zira narrowed her eyes. "Then how did he get to Exile 9? The commander paused. "We don't know, but you're lucky. That pod you used is from the Precursor War, only 6 ever launched, all presumed lost." "We weren't lucky," Zira said. "We survived." "The commander nodded slowly. "You two must have a powerful bond." Zira glanced at the glass window behind her. Stars drifted by, peaceful now. "He's the first one who understood me," she said. "The first one who didn't treat me like a monster." "You're not," the commander replied. "I was, until I met him." She stepped forward. "He called me a deathworlder, but now I know. He is too, maybe even more than me." The commander's voice softened. "You're not the only one. Anymore." Zira turned back to Jace's sleeping form. She walked over, sat beside him, and held his hand gently. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not the only one." Final scene. Jace opened his eyes, weak, but alive. He smiled when he saw her. "We made it?" "We did. Together." She nodded. "Always." They looked out the window, the stars shining brighter than ever. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere there was Varkon 7. But for now, they had each other. 2 monsters, 2 survivors, 2 deathworlders. And for the first time, they were not alone.